listen, God bless you all on this Friday morning. I'm grateful to be back with another Clergy Conversation. And I'm so happy, I'm so proud, and I'm so thankful to have with me today one of God's greatest preachers, pastors, people. He's my friend, my big brother, much beloved. And we basically talk every day. That's how much he loves me and how much I love him. And we're silly like this all the time. But listen, I'm so happy to have with me the pastor of the St. John Missionary Baptist Church in Meridian, Mississippi, and the president of the East Mississippi Baptist State District, my friend and brother, the Reverend Dr. Ecclesiastes Goodwin. Big bro, welcome to the
Good
Clergy
morning. Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm honored to be featured on your show, man. Thank you for thinking a little on me in order to be able to come and spend this time with you. So I appreciate you, man. I really do.
Well, thank you so much. So let's get right into it. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background.
I am, as you said, I'm a native of Meridian, Mississippi. Been here pretty much all my life. Had the opportunity to grow up in a Meridian, attended Meridian Public School District. Grew up in church my entire life. My grandfather was a pastor, so I was almost considered like a PK because I grew up in the pastor's house, worked in every area of the church. Pretty much our family was pretty dominant in our church. We kind of did whenever something needed to be done, we were the plug-in people to make sure it got done. And so that's why church is just a part of my regiment, my background. I started preaching. I was called to preach much earlier before I really accepted. I was actually called to preach while I was in high school, ignored, ran, didn't go until I actually got out of high school. Married, 4 kids. I'm an educator, a teacher by trade, by vocation. Taught Meridian Public School Districts. I am a funeral director / insurance agent. And I love ministry. I love what I do. It affords me the opportunity to do what I love, which is preaching, teaching, as well as being a blessing to those that God has made me overseer of.
Yes, sir. So as you're growing up in church, um, as you say, your grandfather was a pastor. As you're growing up in church, did you ever feel that one day you would actually walk into the realm of being a pastor?
I deep down on the inside, I knew it, but I really did not want to accept the reality of it.
Right.
All my life, I was told that boy's gonna be a preacher. You're gonna be the preacher. You're gonna be the next O.L. Goodwin, which is my grandfather. I was told that all my life. And because of the reality of the perils of church and what I saw, I really didn't want to do it because I saw the good, the bad, and the ugly of church. And just being realistic, I was like, God, no, that ain't me. I ain't there yet. Where I got to deal with those kind of folk. That's not me. I don't want to do that. And so growing up, again, I heard it all of my life. All of my life, I was told that. I guess you could say prophesied that. But deep down on the inside, as I matured and got older, I knew that was my calling, but I tried to run from it. I didn't want to do it because of what I said.
Absolutely, and I think that's something that a lot of people say because of how their fathers were treated. I say how their mothers were treated, how their grandmother was treated. Is that people have to realize that PKs have scars that people don't necessarily realize, or that PKs really don't talk about because they've watched all of this happen. And people in the pew have to realize how you treat the pastor doesn't just affect the pastor, it affects everyone that's connected to the pastor.
That's right. Exactly right.
Yes, sir. So then talk to us then, big bro, about, you said you were called in high school. How tell us about you being called and then about you running away from it. What was the experience?
Again, we were always a close-knit spiritual family. Prayer was the order of the day, the study of the word. So I was rooted and grounded in the Word, no doubt. And I even had a relationship with God. I knew I was saved. I mean, I knew all of that. But yet, that was the spiritual side of me. But the flesh side of me, again, being young in high school, want to hang out with my friends, want to, do all of that. Didn't want to be labeled as the little church boy. And so it was not a matter of, I didn't mind going to church, didn't mind working, singing, none of that, didn't mind any of that. But that was as far as I wanted to go. And again, even though I knew that I was called, I knew I had a deeper calling on my life, because my friends could be dealing with something, and all of them would come to me. My nickname was Tess, still is. That's my nickname. Only people that really, really know me know that. They were like, "Well, Tess, man, I got this going on. What do I need to do?" And instantly, I could just rattle off and tell them, "Well, you need to do this. You need to do this." Or anybody was dealing with something, they would come to me, and like the Spirit would just reveal to me how to address it, how to handle it, how to combat it. So deep down the inside, I knew that I had a calling. I knew that's what God had for me to do. But now accepting it, that was a totally different story. I just didn't want to do it. I was almost like Jonah. Didn't go to Nineveh per se, but I was in my own personal Nineveh, because I ran, I ignored it, even though there were confirmations per se of me knowing this is what God wanted me to do. I still ignored it, almost to the fact I almost got killed. I finally said, "Okay, Lord, I'll do what you want me to do." Here I am. I mean, and I can tell you, I had continuous, consistent close calls, wrecks, challenge. Man, you name it, I've been there, did it. And finally, when I surrendered to God, I was like, okay, and I never will forget. I was going through all of that. Man, I was having wrecks after wreck. Stuff was just happening for no apparent reason. And I remember my grandmother told me one day, she said, "Boy," she said, "you can't run from God. She said, you can run, but you can't hide." And I knew then it was either do it God's way, one way or the other. You were going to do His will forcibly or willingly. And it was then at that point that I accepted, "Okay, God, I'll do what you want me to do. I'm tired of running, tired of fighting this battle. I can't beat you. I can't win. So let me just go and do what you want me to do."
Wow. Well, I think that's a powerful story, because I think a lot of times, we've all been there where we we get the call, but then we run from the call, and
Right.
then, as you say, God has a way of pulling you back in. God has a way of getting you, and you cannot run from it at that point. So to hear that testimony is very powerful, because I think your testimony, big bro, will help those who even still sometimes feel this hesitancy to acknowledge call, but God won't let you have any peace, won't let you rest or anything until you fully and completely acknowledge what He's doing.
I mean, and the reality of it, if you know church, if you know church, I mean, it's a different dynamics of knowing God, because church is. I mean, I grew up rural Mississippi, and church hurt is a different type of dynamics. I mean, where people will shout on Sunday, but then cuss and fight in business meeting, the night before, or when you do what you can to help people, and then those same people turn around and be the very ones to belittle you, cuss you out, and do all. I saw all of that, and I was like, "God, this what you want me to do? No, I'm good. I'm good." But I can stay in the world and do that. So that's why you have to really, really, and I tell particular, because I'm young, but I tell young preachers this, that ministry is not all glamorous and glory as we make it seem. Now there are those times, but again, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And based upon my experience of growing up in church from an arm baby to what I am now, well, at that time when I was in high school, It was just like, I just don't know if I want to take that road to do that. And it was a battle. I mean, it was a battle, not because of my relationship with God. Again, I had a relationship with God. I knew God. Uh, that was never the issue. Except in the reality of dealing with the peopleness, if that's a word, the peopleness, and the perils of church. Um, that was the aspect of was a deciding factor for me.
Well, I was gonna ask it later, but since you already brought it up, let's dive more into that. What advice would you give young pastors, young preachers about serving in ministry, being faithful in ministry, in dealing with these different dynamics of you're preaching and teaching to people and loving on people when it's not always reciprocated, or when you see the other side of people. What are some keys, some tools that you would give to us younger pastors, young preachers, about the longevity, about really staying in the race?
If I'll look at this from two different aspects. The first one, for young preachers that's not pastoring yet, I would say don't rush, take your time. Because in the Black Baptist Church, particularly in my day when I was coming up, if a preacher preached, and this was literally the norm, if you accepted your call to preach and confessed that you had been called to preach, literally three months later, you were preaching your first sermon. That same night, you got your license, and then almost all of a sudden, you were on the road preaching. Um, and that was literally my life story. I preached my first sermon the first Sunday of June 2003. Literally in September, I was serving at church as the interim pastor. I served there for 6 months, and literally a few months later, I received the call to my first pastorate. Um, I was blessed because I sat under knowledgeable pastors who taught me, and even though I was preaching, I still came back home to sit under them, to receive the teaching, receive the training, and all those things. But now, many young pastors, as soon as they start preaching, they're ready to start pastoring. And if that's the call God has on your life, I'm not dispelling or disputing that, but don't necessarily be in a rush as soon as you come out the gate to start pastoring, because there are some things you need to learn about preaching. You need to develop your gift, develop your call, develop your craft. And as soon as you get to a church trying to pastor them, you really got to find yourself first before you're trying to lead people. And so I would say, take your time. Don't be in such a rush. My grandfather told me, he said, you just learn to preach. He said, excuse me, if you learn to preach, he said, they're going to teach you how to pastor. And he didn't lie. Of course, he did not lie. Because again, even though I had sat under sound doctrinal preaching and teaching, there was still a whole lot of stuff I didn't know. I learned a lot hands-on, and a lot of it came by experience. A lot of it came by trial and error. I'll be the first to admit, I celebrated my 20th year of ministry this year. I'll be the first to admit I made many mistakes. There were things I should have done. There were things I should not have done. But of course, now I don't mind sharing those experiences with younger pastors who has not gone down the road yet. You don't have to make the same mistakes I did. If you do it this way, you might get a better outcome. And even though some things I was told what to do, but I want to do it my way. And so I would say, don't rush. Take your time. Sit under a sound doctrinal pastor that can help you. And then I would say, be you. Be who God made you to be. You don't have to be the celebrity preachers. You don't have to be or do what they do. Nobody can beat you being you. Those, and then people differ on this, but my stance, I think education. I think education was a big plus to me. It was a big added benefit that helped me in my ministerial career and pursuits of being, I'm not going to necessarily say successful, but being as blessed as I've been afforded to be.
Absolutely. And I think all of that is very phenomenal, very powerful, because I think sometimes as young preachers, we see the sweet stuff, but we don't see the hard stuff. And
Exactly right.
we don't see the toil, we don't see the hurts, we don't see the tears. But when you start pastoring, all of what you didn't see becomes a
It's coming
reality.
out. It's coming out. No doubt. No doubt. Some quick sooner than others, but it's gonna happen. That's just like James 1 and 2 says, "Count it all joy when you fall into direct, not if, but when."
Hmm.
And the perils and the problems of pastoring are just like the blessings. Pastoring, there's burdens and there's blessings. So I mean, it comes with the territory. And we
Absolutely.
got to stop painting the picture that passing is just passing anniversaries and just the good time. Well, that's a part of it, but there's also some bad times or some time that keeps you on your knees, keeps you praying, and I think those times are beneficial because they keep you humble. Um, Very first church I ever served, I think it was like literally, not exaggerating, 5 people there. And I think on a good Sunday we would have about 8. And I look back on that now, and I tell young preachers, I say every young preacher needs a church like that to start out with. Because when God blesses you, you'll understand that it's not always been like this. And you won't get the big head per se and think it's all about you. But you can look back and see where God has brought you from, and then you will have a keen understanding of ministry is all about Him. No matter how well you can sing, no matter how well you can preach, no matter how well you can dress or do what you, no matter how much you're sought after or invited, never forget it's not about you. We are just yielded vessels that He saw fit to use for His glory, and we should never take the focus off of Him and think that it's about us, because it's not. It's all about Him.
I love how you said that. That's why me and my big bro we connect so well because I've always said the same thing with my first pastorate. On a good day, on a real good day, it may have been 5, 7 people. I told you about it. And,
Right,
we had
right,
those conversations, but I always say, and I tell my pastor all the time, I'm grateful for it because I remember my pastor asked me a question. He's like, "Are you sure?" Because he kept asking. I didn't realize what he was asking at the time,
mm-hmm.
so I said, "Yeah, I'm." Because when you young, ambitious, you say, I'm getting to church, I get to do this, do that, till you get there. Then
Right.
for a couple months, it's cool. But then after a while, it's like that. It's like nah. The tide changes very quickly.
Very
But I
quickly,
think,
right?
but I learned from that, and I think every young preacher and really any associate needs a spot like that to really grow. But too often, you've seen it more than I have. There are young preachers and even associates, even a little older, who say, "I ain't doing that. I ain't doing that." But you want a pastor who's, as you said, pastor is not always. Everybody don't get to pastor the 500 a
That's right.
big sanctuary. Sometimes you do have to go into the country. Sometimes you do have to go into the trenches.
That's right. Exactly right. Exactly right. And the harvest, the Bible said the harvest is plenteous, but the labors are few. And God never promises us what harvest we're gonna have, or what field He's gonna assign us to work. But we have to be faithful wherever He assigns us. And don't minimize small beginnings,
Yes,
because you
sir.
never know that could be the doorway to your blessing.
Yes, sir.
And again, because as you said, it's not the 500 member church, or it's not the most eloquent building, it's not the nicest edifice. Sometimes we'll look down on that, but ministry is ministry, whether it's at on the street corner, whether it's in the nursing home, whether it's at the little 5 member church, or wherever it is. We just have to be faithful where we are, and to be faithful over few things. Then the Lord will make you rulers over many. But many times God can't trust us with the small stuff, and yet because of our selfly gain, we want the bigger stuff. But God got to be able to trust us with the small stuff first before He can.
Absolutely. So then, what was your first sermon?
My very first sermon. My first sermon was "Does Anybody Care?" from
Hmm.
Nehemiah. When Nehemiah built the wall. He says Nehemiah 4 and 6, so people had a mind to work, so built we the wall together. Nehemiah had a concern, had a zeal to rebuild the wall, and how he garnered support to help. And so, does anybody care? Does anybody care when we see our land perishing, when we see the church in disarray, when we see our families being torn apart? Who cares? Does anybody care? That was my first sermon, June the 1st, 2003, 20 years ago.
So after your first summer, were there a lot of preaching opportunities?
Literally, the next Sunday on, I said I started the next Sunday. I mean, at my first sermon, when I finished that night, guys were coming up to me, inviting me to their churches already. I mean, already. And as I said, I started preaching in June. In like September of that year, I was the quote unquote interim pastor of a church that did not have a pastor. Really, I mean, and I guess I could say, I mean, I was there preaching every Sunday. I was taking care of Bible study and doing little minimal things, but I served them for about 6 months. Of course, they opted not to call me, and that was absolutely fine. But a few months later, I received a call to my first church. So literally at the gate, I was getting invited to come preach Sunday mornings, Sunday evenings, revivals. And I attribute much of that to my grandfather, because of pastors he helped in his time, and pastors he opened the door for during his time as pastorate. I almost saw it as a way of them repaying him, of allowing me opportunities to preach and minister. So because of him and his legacy, I was afforded much, even before I was pastoring, fully pastoring. I never had to worry about a place to preach. I never had to say, man, nobody's inviting me. I mean, I was literally engaged all the time.
So then from interim, so you're in there for 6 months before you get called to your first church, and then you're preaching every week. How are you, in a sense, developing your style? How are you developing your preparation process in those, from when you first started to this interim? How are you really developing you and finding you at this time, and as you're continuing to grow to preach?
Two things. One, self study was always a big thing with us growing up. Studying the word, not just picking up the Bible on Sunday, reading it. So study was always big in our house, even in my early ministerial career. So I think that having that commitment and that relationship to the word was the first thing. And then two, if I be honest, I don't think I really found myself until I started pastoring. The reason being because I was preaching in different places every Sunday, and oftentimes, and some preachers don't want to admit this, but I'll be candid and admit it. Whatever culture the church I went to, I pretty much took on that culture for that day. If the church was reserved and quiet, well, I kind of fell in line with them. If they were a charismatic church, well, I fell in line with that too. So I really just didn't find or develop my own style until I got to the place where I was pastoring, because I was there every Sunday, and I was able to develop me, because the church takes on the characteristics of the pastor. And so it was at that point where I think I really developed my style, my craft. And because again, I was somewhat different every Sunday, the first year or so. And so it was, I'm not gonna say it was hard, but and even though in the developmental stages of me being somewhere every Sunday, I was setting up and learning my craft. But I think when I got to my first assignment, that's where I really settled down and found myself, found my tone, found my tune, found my style. Because I was in that same mode every Sunday versus being in a different atmosphere, So when I was in that same mode every Sunday, that's when I think I developed my own craft.
So then, how did you get to your first assignment, and how long did you stay, and what were some of the things that you learned that that helped you, good or bad? Talk to us about that first assignment.
My first assignment, I'll never forget it. I was recommended. I was recommended to them by a deacon at my home church. He was friends with the deacon at that church, and he says, we got a little young preacher boy over at our church. Y'all need a pastor, and he'll make y'all a good preacher. He's my cousin, and he'll make y'all a good preacher. Again, literally, I walked in, and I think it was like 5 people there. And first thing went through my mind, God, I know this is not where you got me. But went on, preached. They invited me to preach one Sunday. I went and preached. They asked me, could I come back? They were first and third Sundays at the time. Asked me, could I come back? I went back. And that went on for about 3 months. I was there just preaching for them. And then when I went back the third month, they said, we want to talk with you. I said, okay. And so they asked me, would I consider pastoring? I says, well, if you all feel led to do so, I will. The deacon said, he said, okay, hold on. I'll be right back. He went out into the sanctuary, and he was out there probably about maybe 20 minutes and maybe about 15 minutes. And about 15 minutes, and he came back. He said, Reverend, can you come inside? I said, okay. So I went inside. His exact words, us is voted. And us is voted you as our pastor. And I says, okay. And
so they had a church meeting the same day, basically.
Exactly right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And but I never will forget them because they literally taught me how to pastor.
Yes,
literally taught me how to pastor. It was a family-ran church. I mean, everybody there was family. One of the issues was certain members of the family were not in the clique per se.
Okay.
And so those members that were not in the clique were considered outcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't want them in any type of decision making. They didn't want them. You just sit back and we'll tell you what we're gonna do. Well, that caused some friction. So of course, I'm trying to be straight down the middle and be fair to everybody, be everybody's pastor, things of this sort. And some of the powers that be had a little issue with that, of course. And so,
of course.
Right, of course, and I was of the persuasion everybody had a voice. Nobody was more dominant than the other. And so people who were in quote unquote charge, that kind of ruffled some feathers. Yep. So making a long story short, I caught purity hell. I mean, and there's no candid, no way of dressing it up. That's the bare naked truth. After about a year, I caught pure hell there. Again, mind you, only 5 or 6 people ate a good Sunday, but I caught hell from about 4 or 5 of them. But there again, I didn't back down. I stood my ground, and I didn't leave until the Lord released me to go. So I would never forget them because it taught me how to pastor. It taught me how to endure hardships. It taught me how to have perseverance, and it taught me every day would not be sunny or sunshiny. But if you're called and commissioned, you got to do the work of Christ. It taught me all of that, and I'm forever grateful for that 3-year experience.
Yes, sir. Wow. Yeah. Man, you bringing back memories from my previous assignment now.
Oh, I'm talking about, and I didn't even tell it all. I could really go really, really deep, but for the
but I think as I think what you just said though is helpful to all of us because we have to understand that as leading God's people, that you're right. We can't just lead in sunshine. We got to be able to lead when it's a hurricane.
Exactly right. Because always remember there's thorns among the roses. There's thorns among the roses. And so if you look at a rose stem or bush, in order to get to the rose, you got to go through some thorns first. And that metaphor has always stuck with me that you're going to have some good days, some good times, but there's also going to be some thorns and bristles along the way. Ministry is no different. As a matter of fact, Jesus said, He warned us in John 16:33, in this world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer because I have overcome the world. And so if he had to endure it, I mean, even the best pastor, the most celebrity pastor at their churches that we think they don't have no issues, they don't have no problems, all of that, all of us deal with some type of, calamity, issue, peril, however you want to put it. None of us are exempt from that. It comes with the territory.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
Marriage is the same way. Parenting is the same way. So therefore, ministry falls in the same category. It's a part of it. You got the good as well as the bad.
So with that first assignment, like I said, you're getting your feet wet, you're going through your battles, you're going through some storms, but you talk about how you learned from that experience, you grew from that experience. So what happens next? How do you get to the next assignment?
Um, when you get to the next assignment, first, I think now you talking about me personally, like
Yeah, I'm
what
talking about you
happened.
personally. I'm talking about you
So you
personally.
mean like when I got to my next assignment, or while I was
Yeah,
still
yeah.
at the first one waiting
So
on it?
so while you were still at the first one, what happened that got you to the next assignment? How
Okay,
did you yeah,
so
that's what I mean.
okay, so I guess the transition. First, the self or flesh side of me, like, okay, I'm done, I'm ready to go. I'm not putting up with this. But yet God had not released me. And so there were many Sundays I woke up dreadful, because I already knew what the culture was going to be like. I already knew what the atmosphere was going to be. I already knew what the tone of the people were going to be like because of what was going on. And I did that for the entire 6 months, dreading Sunday morning, dreading the worship experience because I already knew how cold it was going to be. But yet, because God had not released me, I couldn't go anywhere. And so I stayed and I kept praying, Lord, show me a sign when you're ready for me to go. Show me a sign when you're ready for me to go. And I think that God, I always say God has a sense of humor. God purposely kept me there for a little while again to teach me. You got to go through some stuff. You have to endure some stuff. And I'm grateful for that right now because um, every assignment after that, I was able to handle it because of what I went through at my first assignment. So I stayed there like 3 years. Um, and I got to my next assignment. I actually pastored in Alabama. Got to my next assignment through another preacher. Had informed me of a church. And I was like, okay, I'll check it out. I'll check it out. Did um, Made contact with them. They invited me to preach. It was in June, first Sunday. Um, and as soon as I went there, the Lord showed me this is where you're gonna be. And I said, okay, God, I want you to give me a sign that this is where I'm gonna be. I went back the third Sunday of June of that year to preach. And while I was there, third Sunday of June, if you're a denomination affiliated, you already know that's the National Baptist Congress week.
Yep.
When the deacon called me to come back that Sunday, he said, well, Reverend, we want to talk with you after service. It was okay. I said, it's okay. I said, well, if it won't take too long, that'll be fine. I said, because I'll be leaving, going to the National Baptist Congress, right after church. So I kind of want to get on the road before it gets too late. He said, okay, it won't take long. It won't take long at all. So we went through worship, had good worship that Sunday, preached. They met with me after church. We talked or whatever. And Deacon, we were ready to leave. He said, Reverend, did you say you were going out of town? I said, I did. He said, well, hold on for a minute. He said, where you going again? I said, I'm going to the National Baptist Congress. It was in Louisville, Kentucky that year. And I said, okay. He said, hold on for a minute. He came out. Mind you, I was not the pastor. He came back and brought me a nice check. He said, he says, this is to help you on your trip.
Oh, look at God.
And I was like, wow, okay. and on my way there, the Lord revealed to me that I had asked the Lord to show me a sign if that was the assignment for me. some people may figure, oh, that was just them being kind, whatever. I asked the Lord to show me a sign, and as God would have it, I ended up getting elected as pastor there. Stayed there several years. Good career there. Good experience there. Now every day wasn't sunny, but again, learned a lot. I think those were my formative years in ministry. While I was there, I learned people. I learned ministry. I was continuing developing my craft. So it was a good experience. I had some bad experiences, but overall it was a good experience because it continued to develop me into what I am now. So I'm grateful for it. Still have a good relationship with those people now. So it was a good experience. Stayed there several years. Also, while in that same area of Alabama, again, they were first and third Sundays. I pastored another church, which was second and fourth Sunday. Because here in the rural, we still have churches that do 2 Sundays, alternating Sundays. And so I did that. So I was pastoring that area. I was full-time pastoring, but I had 2 churches, and so I did that for several years. The only, I guess, the only downfall per se was, and it's not really a downfall, just realistically speaking. The churches were like night and day. They had two different personalities, 2 different characteristics, and one of the downfalls was each church always felt like I was giving more time and more commitment to the other church. Prime example, they were both in the same area. So whenever we would have like the MLK parade or something like that, well, if I walked with one church, well, they felt like I was favoring them more than I did the other church. Things of that sort. Or for anniversaries, they would try to outdo each other, and even though some guy would say, oh yeah, that's good, let them do that, but it continued the competitive spirit that I was not trying to build. And that was the only downfall per se that I garnered from pastoring 2 churches in the same area.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm gonna ask those who are watching, continue to comment, also share as well as we continue this clergy conversation. But big bro, I think you said something that was very crucial about that. How do you? Because there are some pastors who they pastor 2 churches at the same time. Some do, some do it. But I think you hit on something when it comes to that, about this competitive spirit, or about this as you say, these 2 different personalities. Because in some realms, some pastors can pastor 2 churches, but the churches understand, they have this mutual understanding. But then, as you say, you have some who, in a sense, they're trying to, as you say, outshine each other.
Right.
So for you, and then with pastoring 2 churches, were you preaching the same sermon to both? Were you teaching the same lessons to both? How are you dealing with those different dynamics?
I definitely was not preaching the same sermon because they were so close.
Right.
Like if I preached some on the first Sunday, and sometimes we would have members from the other church come and visit. So I couldn't preach the same sermon I just preached last Sunday. Now I would teach the same stuff in Bible study. I definitely do that. And we had got to the point to where I had got the 2 churches to fellowship together. Like if we were having homecoming revival at this church, well then they would come, the other church would come and fellowship and things of that sort. An older pastor told me, he says, Goodwin, he said, you got the leverage where you could really build almost, not necessarily specific, but he said you could almost develop the dynamics of one church in 2 locations. And I really wish I would have seized the opportunity to do that, even though there were 2 different congregations, 2 separate names and things of that sort. But when I look back at it now, I could have developed the same ministry model, the same ministry concept. What I did at church A, I could have did it at church B. The same mission, the same vision, the same goal. Could have done that. Of course, I was young, so I didn't seize the moment to do that. But now that I look back on it, if I was in that predicament now, that's exactly what I would do. Again, because I'm the same pastor and the same vision God gives me, even though there may be different people. But you can still model it to fit, the vision God gives you,
Right.
or the opportunity, the ministries and the vision and the goals God gives you. You can format that to fit people wherever you go. So I kind of, when I look back on it now, maybe I should have done that, but I didn't. Again, I was young. I was just pastoring 2 churches, preaching, teaching, still doing revivals, traveling, all of that. And so the ministry model mindset was not completely there. It was just, get in, get the church going, get the church moving, be successful, and do what you got to do.
So then, what would you tell? So then, what would you tell somebody who may be in that predicament now? Because I know there are some guys who may be pastoring 2 churches in a bigger city, and then there's some who are pastoring 2 churches in a medium size and, as you said, in the rural. But what would you tell somebody who may be pastoring 2 churches, and it may be a situation like yours: one meets first and third, one meets second and fourth, or one meets first and second, one meets second and third. But what would you tell that guy? Tell a guy who's pastoring 2 churches like that about the way to kind of make it to where it's like what you just talked about, the mission and having these 2 churches really like growing and adapting and things like that.
I would definitely say to them, or recommend to them, or encourage them, however you want to put it, to mold the model that fits the now, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Mold the model that fits the now. Again, when I look back at it now, and every church I've served, even though different areas, different people, but the vision that God has birthed into me really hadn't changed.
Yes, sir.
Gifts that God gives me hadn't changed. And this is no reflection on any pastor that I follow. So I'm giving that disclaimer. This is no reflection on any pastor that I follow. Many of the churches I've served, I've had to go in and help restructure.
Okay.
Had to go in, either the people were hurt, they were wounded, almost as if God has called me there to help heal, help bring back together, help renew and restore. Almost every assignment that I've served, that has been the case. So I feel like that's the ministry and the gift that God has given me. So if that's the case, that hadn't changed. So regardless where I serve, if that's the vision God has birthed into me, well, I don't necessarily change the vision or the mission, but I may change how I do it or how I convey it. So I think what God gives you, we just have to mold it to fit the people where we are.
Right.
So if you serve in more than one church, you serve in 2 or 3 churches, which guys are still doing that. Basically, think about collectiveness, collaboration. How can I collaborate these local assemblies together? Again, because if you envision something, well, that's not going to change because you go to church A or church B or church C. Your viewpoint on that is going to be the same regardless. So then what you should look at doing is solidarity. How can I solidify all of these assemblies that I'm serving, get them on the same mindset, moving in the same direction, moving toward the same mission, the same goals, and the same vision. And I think that one church, multiple location mindset would be a dynamic way to go. Even though Mount Valley, Mount Olive, St. John, 3 different congregations, but yet they understand we share the same pastor, we have the same goals, he has the same vision, even though we're in separate locations, but yet we already know pastor's perspective on this. I would, relatively work to collectively solidify, bring those congregations together on the same goal, same vision, same mission, even though they may have different optical view of it. But again, how you get there, I think you would do well to collectively bring them together.
And I like how you said that. And I know for some it would be hard, but do you think sometimes with these dynamics, and it's just me asking, do you think sometimes with these dynamics it would be easier sometimes to just merge the churches together and put them under one name? Or do you think sometimes Because and I'm saying that because it all depends on the personality of this church. Because for some churches, they want to, even though they're right there, they want to still be just them. They want to be separate, even though they do everything together. They still want to be separated. But do you sometimes think, and even as we look at a lot of churches now, who are a lot of historical Black Baptist churches, especially, that I think that the conversation of merging should be more fluid as we look at how some congregations are dwindling. But do you think sometimes with those two churches, sometimes do you think merging would be more healthy?
I readily think that many churches are on the brink, if not already there, of needing to merge.
Mm-hmm.
The reality of them actually doing it, I think that's a horse of another color that people just don't want to accept. The reality that that's the day we're in. COVID brought a lot to the light. That fact of the matter, some people are not coming back to the building. It's not going to happen. When we have hybrid worship where you can view FaceTime, live stream and Zoom or conference call, they're just not coming back to the building. When they can have worship in their pajamas and they can give electronically online, they're just not coming back. So then those 20 and 30 member churches are now down to 5 and 10 member. Well, how long can that church survive of that mindset? Or the church with 10 members here on the east side and the church with 8 members here on the west side. Well, how more beneficial could we be if we brought all of those people together and merged them with the church on the south side, and we could have a 50 member church versus 4, 5, 8 member churches. Right. I think that would be very beneficial. But there again, the reality of that happening, I don't know if we're there yet, willing to accept that. Prime example: when I was coming up, where my home church is located, you probably could be at 1, 2, 3, 4, about 6 churches within a 15-minute radius in any direction. Rural areas, but 15, 20 minutes, you could be at a number of churches. Several years ago, many of the deacons of all those churches got together. I was in high school or junior high. They got together and proposed the idea of merging. All of those churches would come together and merge. They talked together. The deacons from my home church, my uncles and all of them said, no way, no, we out. Don't include us. We are self-supporting. We are self-sufficient. We're good. Our membership is stable. We're good. So that excluded us, my home church. There were other churches, maybe 10 members here, 8 members here, 4 members here. 3 of those churches actually ended up merging. Again, there were some hiccups along the way, almost to the point that one church even pulled out, went back to their original location. Of course, there was some issues with that because that location no longer belonged to that church after they merged. So there was some issues with that, but they did, and they're actually still functioning now. But until we see the bigger picture, my granddaddy donated this land, or my granddaddy bought this first pew or brick, or things of that sort, until we become ministry minded, not brick and mortar minded, we're going to continue to see the decline of churches. Autopsy of the Deceased Church, Tom Rayner, he gives some startling statistics that if we don't start to accept the reality, more churches are going to close because of the refusal to accept the reality of now that's the day we're in.
Absolutely. I think that's very true. That is that's the day we're in, when more churches, I think, need to have those conversations about merging, instead of, as you say, you're trying to hold on with like 5 members, but can your finances do that? How old is the congregation? Do you have any new people coming in? If you don't, then why not just merge? But I think as well, the pride gets in the way. The ego, the egotism, the attitudes get in the way, and it's like, what we could be doing ministry wise, we cancel it because we don't want to take that next step. So I like that. I like that, big bro. So then talk to us about how you transition from Alabama to the next time, because the next time is coming back to Mississippi, correct?
Right.
So how
Again,
did that?
I had two churches there, first and third, second and fourth, and the Lord began to drop in my spirit that I needed to be at one place,
Yes, sir.
one assignment. And so, I mean, it was not like I was just at a rush to leave. And I was like, okay, God, well, if you send me somewhere, I'll be willing to go. I was made aware of an assignment because at this particular time, even as well, that's when I became an officer in our state convention. Even when I was pastoring in Alabama, I was appointed as an officer in our state convention, and so that was even more the reason why I felt I needed to be back in Mississippi, because I was serving our convention. And so I pray, well, Lord, if it's your will, open the door, whatever you need to do. So I was made aware of an assignment of a church, my last assignment before I came to where I am now. And again, I was content where I was, but I said, okay, God, if it's you, do the lead word, whole 9 yards. And I had talked to both churches in Alabama. I said, well, I said, I'll stay here, if one of you all are willing to go full time. Well, Church A told me, no, we ain't going full time. That's not what we want to do, so go ahead. The other church said, well, Pastor, we'll follow you. But I wanted to condition them financially to be able to understand what, full-time worship meant. Full-time commitment, not still coming on 2 Sundays, the commitment level. And so in the meantime, I was made aware of this next assignment, and so through another pastor in our convention, he's put me in contact with them. They asked for a resume. Again, wasn't in no real rush, so I delayed, in sending it. And the deacon kept calling me. So I was like, okay, I'll put it in there. I'll send it to you. Never did. And the preacher called me. He said, Reverend, he said, the church is looking for that. They're trying to get in contact with you. I said, okay, I'll send it. Never sent it. Finally, after about 6 months, I finally sent it. And they called me, asked me to come. They asked me to come for a visit because they wanted to kind of get a feel of me, meet them, talk with them. So I went and I visited their church. They were having church anniversary. And I walked in, and the usher says, are you a pastor? And I said, I am. She said, okay, come on, let me take you to the pulpit. I went to the pulpit, and when I sat down, the preacher sitting next to me, and he spoke, and he said, how are you? I said, I'm fine. And he leans over to me, and he said, I don't know what this means. He said, but the Lord just told me to tell you, it's in your favor. I said, okay. Yes, sir. So, okay, nope. So afterwards, after the service, met with the deacons and trustees. They talked to me. They said they were very impressed with my resume, whole 9 yards, and they wanted to know if I would come back and preach. Went back and preached. They invited me back the next Sunday. Well, I couldn't go the next Sunday because it was my anniversary at my other church. I said, I can't come back next Sunday. I said, I can come back, we'll set a time after that. Went back and forth. And I think I went maybe like 3 times. And then finally, in January, I was at the National Baptist Convention board meeting. And the deacon called me. He said, Reverend, he said, we want to talk with you. And I said, well, Dick, I said, I'm at the National Convention board meeting. We were in Jackson, Mississippi. And the church was in Waynesboro. And I said, I'm at the board meeting. I said, because they met with me on a Wednesday. I said, can it wait till Saturday when I get back home? And he was a good guy, country guy. He says, Reverend, I'm trying to get you called. I need you to come on to this meeting. So I said, okay. I said, I'll be there. So I left the board meeting and went with him. And sure enough, they elected me as their pastor. So I left and went back to my church, and I had to resign. Never will forget it. That Sunday worship was through the roof. I mean, it was just like phenomenal. It was unlike any worship experience we had ever had there. So after worship that Sunday, because I was trying to give them a month's notice that I was going to be leaving. So after worship that Sunday, because the spirit was so high, I just couldn't bring myself to resign that day. So I left, and my wife was like, she was looking, waiting on me to resign. I didn't do it, and we got in the car. She was like, "What happened?" I said, "I just couldn't do it that day. I couldn't do it." So got back the next Sunday. I had to do it at that time. I had to. Of course, it was very sorrowful. They were very tearful. They were very, crying. It was a tough, rough day. Because that particular church, they treated us more than just pastor and member. We were like family to them. They were very kind to us. So it was very hard departing there. So I left there, started my assignment at my new church, and great opportunity. I enjoyed it dearly. Stayed there 7 years. The Lord allowed us to do great work there. 7 wonderful years. Had a few hiccups, nothing major. Just typical church stuff. Nothing major. Great success there. Great ministry. Watched children grow up who were babies when I got there, or young in junior high, middle school. Saw them graduate, go off to college. The whole 9 yards. Just overall good relationship. Was there 7 years. Went there through COVID. Spent COVID there. Led them through COVID, and after COVID, maybe some pastors can relate, and I see some other pastors on the chat. So if you are there, maybe you can relate that the Lord had impressed upon me that I did everything He sent me there to do. I had taken them as far as I could take them. All the vision, I had done everything He sent me there to do. So there again, I was like, okay, God, whatever you want me to do. Again, I was not hard pressed because they didn't get me into trouble. Wherever I wanted to go, convention, conference, I had no problem. It was not a high demand church, so I was blessed in that aspect. So again, stayed there 7 years. Great opportunity there. And so I said, okay, God, well, whatever's next, well, you want me to stay here? I'll move on. I'll do whatever your will is. And so after 7 years, of course, the Lord moved me to this assignment where I am currently now. And that's how that played out.
Well, that's an awesome story, but I'm still laughing. I can't wait till we talk later, probably today or tomorrow, about when Dickie said, "Rev, I'm trying to get you called. I need you back." That's probably one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
Those are his exact words. I mean, he called me, and I still laugh about it now because he said, "I said, man, I'm always at the board meeting." I said, and it was like a Monday.
Yeah.
He said, I said, well, can't wait till Saturday. I said, I can come meet with y'all. He said, man, I'm trying to get you called. I need you to come on to this here meeting.
He needs you to come in right now. Come to me. He need to come to me.
Sir. And the meeting was at 5:30. We were done literally at 5:55.
So you only met 25 minutes.
25 minutes. And then by the time I got home, he called me and told me I had been elected as a pastor.
Wow. Well, you got a very interesting way of getting called to churches. You getting called to churches right after you preach. You getting called to churches, and then you get folk telling you, "I'm trying to get you called. I need you to come now." You got to lead board meetings. You need to write a book about how you got called to these churches, so we all can read and laugh. Because you got an interesting way of how you got called to. Do you not know that?
I mean, look, it's hilarious. We sit back and laugh on it now. We do.
So then,
how it played out.
So then let's talk about how you got to St. John, because St. John is your 5th pastorate, correct?
Yeah.
So how did you get to St. John, and what has your experience been? What have you taken from all 4 to now with all the experience to where you are currently at St. John? But let's just talk about first about how you got to St.
I got to St. John. Again, when I realized that I had taken my last assignment as far as I could take them, that they had a pastoral vacancy. I'll just put it that way. They had a pastoral vacancy here, and my former state convention president called me, and he said, "Mr. President," he says, "are you willing to go?" And so I said, "Man, what you talking about?" He said, "Man, look, don't play dumb. You know what I'm talking about." He said, "St. John looking for a pastor. Are you willing to go?" I said, "Well, I really hadn't even considered it, hadn't thought about it, whole 9 yards." And he said, "Mr. President," he said, "you ought to consider it." So I went into prayer. I would pray, "Okay, God, is that, really what you want me to do?" And I prayed for a while. And then it's just like vision after vision started coming to my mind, because all of my other ministry assignments have been away from Meridian. I live on Meridian, but all my other ministry assignments have at least been 40 to 45 minutes or an hour away from Meridian. So I began to see visions of how I could impact my hometown, my community, classmates, family members, friends, the area where I grew up, how I could be an impact or asset here. And so after much prayer, much prayer, much prayer, I felt led to, seek the opportunity. And I did. And the call here, though, wasn't as quick. But it wasn't as long, though. I preached here the second Sunday of December. Well, I taught Bible study that Wednesday night. I met with the deacons and trustees that Saturday, and I taught and I preached that Sunday. And again, I prayed, God, if this is you, make it crystal clear that this is where you want me to go. And without a doubt, the Lord showed me some things, way things panned out, that this is the assignment He wanted me to take. That was the second Sunday of December. They did not actually vote and elect me until the 5th Sunday of January.
Yeah.
I was actually on vacation from vacation from other church. We were in New Orleans. We went to a game, and we were just and one of the chairman of the deacon board called me and says, "Well, Pastor Goodwin," he says, "how are you?" I says, "I'm fine. How are you?" And he says, "Well, welcome to St. John."
Yeah, you see what I'm talking about? Now you get caught on your own vacation in New Orleans. Do you see what?
See, man, only you would notice stuff like that. Only you would bring that to light.
Listen, I'm gonna make so much fun of you like from now on because of this. Because I'm telling you, like I said, me and Big Bro, we talk literally every day, so we're always messing with each other. But this is gonna take the cake, man. I'll try to get you called. That's gonna take the cake from now on. So, but man, come on, man. I'm trying to be serious here.
Yeah,
I'm really not. Right, I'm really not. But as you getting called, and there are other pastors I know who are watching, probably will watch. As you say this, because a lot of pastors do go through that as what Dr. Maurice Watson says, that spiritual discontentment, that spiritual tension, where they feel as though they may feel like it's time to go, or they may feel like they've done all they can. They may feel these different things. They may feel hurt. They may feel disrespected. They may feel like I love them, but there's something else I desire. But of course, it comes with prayer. It comes with seeking God. But what would you tell pastors from your own experience who are dealing with maybe these different type of variables when it comes to a transition, in a sense?
Now, this is what works for me. I know everybody is different, but for me, my own personal reflection, my own personal revelation, when I knew I had no further vision for the church, then I felt like it was time for my exit. Because I believe God gives the pastor vision, and I don't think He just gives one. I think He gives continuous matriculating visions. that the church, and I teach my church, we should always be working, always doing something in ministry. We should never become complacent or lackadaisical or bored. If it's nothing but um, increasing our attendance in Sunday school, we should always be working towards something. And when I got to the point, particularly we talking about my last assignment, when I got to the point where I had no additional vision, when I had no zeal for ministry, or when I had no burning of things to continue, that's when I feel like the Lord impressed upon me. I had done everything He sent me there to do. And so that's when I began to pray, okay, God, order my steps for my next move. Show me what it is that you want me to do. And then when I looked at everything that because every assignment I go to, when I get there, I survey the land per se, and I look at things that I want to do. I write them down. I believe in writing the vision. I write them down, everything that I believe the Lord has sent me there to do, or things I want to accomplish, share with the leadership team of the church, things we're going to do, things we're going to try to accomplish, things of that sort. When I went back and looked at all that we had done, we had surpassed the inventory that I did upon my first arrival there. And there again, I feel like, Lord, I said, I believe I've done everything you said. And again, I didn't just pray that I believe I'm done. Lord, show me what else you want me to do. Lord, if there's further work here, show me. And I'll stay. I'm not rushing to leave, but Lord, if I've completed my assignment here, then promote me to the next one, wherever you have me to go. But I just believe that God gives the pastor's vision, and I think He reveals to the pastor what He has for them to do. And then when there is no vision, the people perish. And I'm of the persuasion, I don't want the ministry to perish while under my watch. So rather than see it perish, I believe in either promotion or transition. And I'm not saying that I think every year or two you got to transition. I'm not saying that, so please don't misunderstand me there. What I'm saying is when God sees you to a place to do something and you completed your journey, and again, for me, it was 7 years at my last assignment. For some guys, it may be 10 years, maybe 15 years, it may be 25 years. But I think God works in seasons. The assignment I'm at now, I think this is where I'm going to be. And I do believe you asked that, I think all of those preceding years were preparation for this assignment here. The ministry is much larger. The demand is much greater. The opportunity is much bigger. The harvest is more plenteous. So I think all of those experiences were preparation for the now here at St. John. Again, I got more people, more opportunities. I'm exposed more. So I think all of that was preparation for now. And I think I had to go through everything I experienced, the good, the bad, and the ugly, to be able to be equipped for this season of ministry.
So how do you juggle pastor, president, but most importantly, husband and father?
It's definitely, and I can say this from personal experience, that the pastor's family has to sacrifice. I mean, it's some guys say, no, I don't put church. At some point, your family is going to sacrifice. If you be real, even if you prioritize, I mean, if you have a schedule, all of that, the pastor's family has to be a sacrificial family because you have to give of yourself. But I have learned to balance, and I'm of the persuasion for the longest. If I want something done the way I want it done, I'm of the persuasion I'll just do it the way I want it done myself. I had to come to grips with that. It's okay to let others around you help. It's okay to delegate. It's okay to build a team. And if you build a team that can help you in ministry, you won't experience burnout. Several years ago, I experienced ministry burnout. Literally, I was preaching revival from March all the way to the end of November. Literally, every week I was somewhere preaching revival. Every Sunday I was somewhere. And it got to the point to where I feel like I had nothing else to preach. I had no energy. because I was not only was I preaching revival, not only was I preaching on Sunday, but I was taking care. I was a convention secretary at that time. I was running. I was doing all of that. I was in my fraternity. I was stretched every which way. Had family stuff. You know, I was father. I was hooked. Had all of that going on, and it's finally like I hit a wall and says, I have nothing else to give. It was after that point that I learned you cannot do it all by yourself. An old preacher told me, he said, you can be the man without being the man.
Mm.
And it was at that point that I realized can't do it all. You'll burn yourself out, run yourself ragged, almost kill yourself. And the church still gonna be there. The convention still gonna be there. The fraternity still gonna be there. Your family gonna be there, and you're gonna be the one gone. So I have learned priority. I have learned pacing myself. I have learned not to take on more than I can handle. I have a great, awesome team that I delegate very well. And they'll tell you I delegate very well now. I'm no longer trying to be the man. I no longer have to be, I don't micromanage. I give them what I need done here at the church. I have a great administrative team here at the church that when I give them something to do, I don't have to worry about it. And I built the team specifically of people I felt were competent, capable of me not having to stand over them. Because early on in ministry, I felt like I had to do it all by myself. I felt like I had to be at every meeting. I had to be at everything to make sure things got done. Well, that's not being the leader. If people are not following you, you're really not a leader. You're just taking a walk. But you're a leader when you can help empower other people. You don't have to stand over them shoulder to shoulder. You don't have to micromanage them. You don't have to do anything of that. But all those other assignments and ministries prepared me to be the leader that I am now. And not that I'm so great, but again, right. I know what God has gifted me.
And talk about just the importance of the pastor building a team, and the importance for the people to realize you being trustworthy enough for the pastor to feel that they can trust you. Because a lot of people sometimes want to be used, but are you trustworthy? Can the pastor really trust you? So talk about building a strong nucleus.
And I think that's aside from God and His Spirit and His power, of course. I think that is what attributes to much of the success of the ministry, or convention, or association, or church, or what have you, is the right core team. Again, even if there's something that I don't know how to do, if I put somebody on the team that can get it done, then at the end of the day, all of us look good. When I was general secretary of my convention, I told my president at the time, I said, Mr. President, my job is to make you look good. Because when I make you look good, guess what? The entire convention, all of us look good. The people don't have to know that you don't know how to do a spreadsheet. People don't have to know that you don't know how to build a PowerPoint. But at the end of the day, when the president stand up, when the pastor stand up, and when it has his name on it, it doesn't matter who did it, but the team looks good. And when you build a team, there's no I in team. So no one person gets the glory. And as the pastor, as the president, I'm always applauding my administrative team because they make me look good. Prime example, I had something I needed done within my state convention last night. I didn't get the call till about 7:30, 8 o'clock. It needed to be submitted by 11 last night. I made one call. Now, the previous time, I would have got on the computer and did it myself. But I made one call. I said to my general secretary, this is what I need done. I got to have it tonight. I apologize for the inconvenience. No problem, Mr. President. Give me a little while. I'll have it done to you within an hour. The presentation was created just what I wanted. It was done. Why? I built the right team. That is attributes to much of the success that any church, any entity has. Building the right, and then not only building the right team, making people feel a part of the team. And of course, that goes with looking at capabilities, qualities, characteristics, things of that sort. And that's why being the pastor or the leader, you got to have discernment to know just because somebody's your friend, or just because somebody been there the longest, or just because they do this, that doesn't necessarily qualify them to be on the team. But if they can get the job done, they can help you advance the ministry. They can help you grow the ministry. That's the core nucleus that you got to have. When I arrived here at St. John, I met with the leaders. First meeting I had, I met with all the leaders, shared with them where I was trying to go. I said, you all are the vehicles going to help me get to where I can go. And if you are not helping me get where I go, you got to get out the car. Because if you're not helping me get there, you're slowing down the ride. And when I worked for a corporate company, their motto was lead, follow, or get out the way. So I take that same mentality. Either you're going to lead, you're going to follow, or you're going to get out the way. And as ministers, leaders, Christian educators, however you want to view it, that's the mentality we got to have when it comes to teamwork, building the right team, establishing the mission, establishing the vision. Here at the church, we recite our mission, our vision every Sunday, because I want them to grasp it, that this is where we're trying to go. And the team I have, we meet every month, because I need to see where we are. I need to see how we're doing, how we're progressing. If we're not progressing, what do we need to do to get there? So the team is vital. You look in the operating room, the surgeon does the work, but guess what? Somebody got to hand him the scalpel. Somebody got to hand him the gauze. Somebody. It's a team effort, and you got to have the right team to get the end result, which is the growth of the ministry.
Absolutely. Well, I love all that. Those are very key nuggets I can even apply, to myself, because as when we had that discernment, as you say, we see what we need to see, and God reveals what He reveals. So that's definitely very powerful. So also talk to us, because I'm gonna let you go in a few minutes. I don't want to, but I'm gonna let you go in a few minutes. But just talk to us about just for you, preaching. What is your preparation process? What encourages you in preaching now, or what discourages you in preaching? Talk to us a little bit about that, and not just in preaching, but also just like education, building a library, those things.
Well, I'll start there. Building the library. And I have logos and words. I have all of that electronically. But I have not negated or neglected to have a physical library. Again, as I mentioned earlier, Bible study, word study was very vital and important and instilled in me as a young novice coming up. Bible study, Sunday school, BTU, all of that was a part of our regimen, not optional. It was a part of who we are. So that has been the custom of my life throughout, of studying the word, making sure I knew the word, all of that. So, and my grandfather, I was gifted with his books and things of that sort. I taught history, so history has always been a excitement of mine anyway. So research, that has always been my custom. So I admonish every preacher, young preacher, old preacher, in between, what have you, that the building of a library attributes to much of your success. Electronically, hard copy, whatever. You got to have research. Because gone are the days where if you just open your mouth, the Lord will speak for you. You've got to do some study, you got to do some research to be able to adequately and rightly divide the word of truth. So as far as what excites me for preaching, or what um, fuels me for preaching, is simple things. When somebody says, Pastor, I was helped by that message. Pastor, that was for me today. Pastor, it was like you were talking to me. That's what motivates me to continue. When I see someone get saved, that's what fires me up. When people are excited about the word, we have and St. John has always been in tune doctrinally, biblically, as far as involved Christian education. And Christian education is a passion of mine. I love Christian education. I believe it's through the vehicle of Christian education that churches improve, that disciples are equipped, pastors are effective. I believe through Christian education, that's how we get to that point. So I believe through the study of the word, through learning his word, and that's what motivates me as a pastor to continue to study, to continue to equip myself, to continue to go and learn so that I can better equip myself so that I can rightly convey the word to the people who show up on Sunday morning. Because when it's feeding time, I want to make sure I give rightly what God has given me, so that even a child that's present on Sunday morning can leave with something that they can understand or take something from the sermon. Now, I saw a post on Facebook the other day that says people have no idea what it means to the pastor when they just show up on Sunday. After a pastor has gone through a full week of preparation, study, and then to get there on Sunday and he looking at empty pews. That's disheartening. That's dreadful, and it's discouraging. Now, that's not to say the pastor's not still going to preach, but if you go through that preparation, you definitely want people to show up. If you prepare a feast, I mean, go through great preparation to cook all this food and set it up, and then when it's dinner time, nobody shows up to eat. That's going to be kind of discouraging, disheartening. So I guess it kind of doesn't discourage me per se, but I do feel that on Sunday morning, when people don't come to hear the word, when we place other things above that, well, that means we still got work to do. And so to me, that's almost a burden to even go back and study some more, to continue to prompt individuals that we've got a heaven to accept and a hell to reject, which brings true the song or the hymn that my grandmama was singing, a charge to keep our hair, a God to glorify. And so I think those are things, just like prime example, when I sit down on Sunday morning, when I sit down from preaching, the wheels are already turning in my mind. What am I going to look at next Sunday? It's already in my mind turning. Okay, where am I going next Sunday? And I try, I try to have a thought by Tuesday, and by Thursday I try to sit down and start putting the shell together. And so it takes almost like a full week of preparing. But there again, that's one of the faces of ministry that people don't see. They think, sometimes they think because we stand there 20, 30 minutes, we just rapidly just throw that together. But it takes preparation. It takes planning. It takes all of these things. And that's just one of the parts of ministry that, as a pastor preacher, that we've been called to do.
Absolutely. Well, you've been gracious with your time. Are there any other thoughts, anything else on your heart you want to convey, you want to share, anything before we get ready to wrap this up?
I appreciate you thinking enough of little old me to invite me to come on this clergy conversation. I know there were many others of great notoriety and great capability and powerful, prolific preaching that you could have chose. So I'm honored that you thought enough of little Goodwin to invite me to come and share this time with you. My brother, I appreciate you, man. And I also thank these other pastors and preachers that chimed in. Thank them for being a part of this. segment that I was so graciously honored to be on.
You're being real extra. You know that, right?
No, man, I really am honored. And I will just say this: Dr. Brown has invited me many times before.
Sure have.
He's invited me many times before, but several other times. At that time, I was bivocational. Really wasn't able to do, and then other ministry pressing other events kept me from coming. So I was grateful that the door was open this time that I could come on and.
Well, I'm definitely grateful, and also, if you haven't heard Dr. Goodwin, I encourage you to. There are definitely different clips of him out there. He just preached a few months ago, late night at the National Baptist Convention, and boy, did he preach that night. And then he's a sought after revivalist and evangelist. He definitely, every time you look up, he preaching somewhere, but it's because he's a great preacher, great character, great guy. And so I'm grateful for our friendship and our brotherhood. Also, as we get ready to close, bro, tell them about the church. Tell them, tell them about the church. Yeah. You see that? Yeah. Tell him, big bro. He was trying to get you. Yep. Hey, Caldwell, big bro. That's from now on. That's gonna be our new line. I'm trying to get you called. Yep, that's our new line from now on.
Oh man.
So tell them about St. John, if they're ever in the area where they can find.
Yes, I am honored and privileged to be able to pastor the historic St. John Missionary Baptist Church here in the great city of Meridian, Mississippi. St. John was very involved, very intricately involved in the civil rights movement. This was one of the sites when Dr. King visited Meridian. The pulpit where I stand every Sunday is one of the places where he stood and preached, spoke to one of the civil rights rallies that were taking place here in Meridian. Very historic church in the east end area of town. We have a very, very active ministry, outreach, missions, evangelism, very dynamic youth ministry. So I'm grateful for where we are and now. And then I am even more excited on where God is taking us. So if you're ever in the Meridian, Mississippi area, look me up, and I will definitely show you the best that Meridian has. I told Dr. Brown when I can afford him, I'm gonna get him down and allow him to holler for us one time down here. But I gotta do some preparatory leg work first before he comes. But if you are ever in this area, look me up, and I'd definitely be happy to.
And I told Dr. Goodwin, big bro, I said he need to stop that. He need to stop that. He said, I am not hard. I just need a little plane ticket. That's about it. That's all I need. And I'll be right there in Mississippi with him. But now he wanted to. On the flip side is, if we can ever get on your calendar for you to come bless us in Kentucky, that's the real thing. Because we trying to get you called. So if we could ever bless your if you could ever just pencil us in to come to the KY, we would be grateful.
I'd be honored just to come and say my speech. I promise. I'd be honored just to come and say my Easter speech. I promise y'all. And I still remember when I was a boy.
With that being said, listen, thank y'all for tuning in. Continue to interact, like, comment, share. We thank you. I'm asking bro to stay on. But listen, pray you all have had a blessed time. And you, big bro, you've been a blessing to us. So I thank you for that. So God bless you all. God keep you. Y'all have a fantastic day.